Good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing all right tonight. Tonight, we want to cover a couple things, including a lot of time is going to be spent on building the templates. And then from there, going to talk a little bit about manipulating some field background items as well. So trying to get that out to where you guys can have, scout card templates, 6-ups with fields, punt charts, kickoff charts, a lot of that. And it's going to go fast, but just always be aware that you can always come back to the website. But if you go to proquickdraw.com, there's a resources button up here at the top. And from there, if I go to Visio and PowerPoint, well, we've got our download PowerPoint shortcut sheet. And I'm going to reference a couple of these things tonight. We'll have the videos listed below. So currently we've got last week's up on the website. So if you attended, you can go back and watch that again. If you did not, this is where you can go back and previously watch that. We've also got some Visio videos as well that we did back during the spring. So please visit the website. A lot of good resources in there. But let's go ahead and get started. Just wanted to touch on a couple pieces from last week, just as a quick reminder. We're going to be doing them. And so I can go ahead and start with a blank presentation. All right. We talked last week about creating your own ribbon. So if I've got the ribbon up here at the top, these are the basic shapes that I'm going to really fly through and utilize tonight. But always remember, you can find these by going to File, Options, and then Customize Ribbon. And then you can go to All Commands here. And then I can add new tabs and new groups to essentially create the areas within using that to be able to create that ribbon. All right. So first off, just your basic shapes. We've got our ovals, we've got our squares, and we've got our rectangles, but obviously those are pretty simple. To me, the biggest one is the freeform shape. So if I can take that freeform shape, I can click once, I can click twice, and then double click to end it. That creates my post route. Now I can go to my outline, change the color. I can then change the weight. Then I can adjust the arrow down at the end. And then if you select the correct one, so I doubled that up, right click, then I can go ahead and set as my default shape. Now, if I want to draw a wheel route going across the screen, I can grab the freeform shape and take it all the way to that top hand corner. And now if I right click and go to edit points, I'm going to have a beginning point where it's got a black box down there at the bottom. I can click that, adjust the bevel in that curve. And now I can actually take this and kind of drag it down. So now you've got a really smooth looking wheel route is there. So that edit points button, I think, is going to be really key in your experience and just being able to draw. If you can master that, you're going to have some really smooth looking drawings and going to be really beneficial for your future and being able to carry those objects. The other key piece that I think is really, really big that we're going to utilize again tonight is the duplicate button. So Control D. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's my 5 offensive linemen. Now, if I go to that arrange button, or if it's in your football tab, I can go to align and choose top. And then now if I actually want to shrink these down to where I can go distribute horizontally, that's going to allow me to space those 5 objects. And then if you wanted them to be from a vertical standpoint, so I've got 1, 2, and 3, I can go to align and go center. It'll center them up and then distribute vertically as well. So those are just a quick little review of just the different pieces up at the top of your screen that I think are really, really beneficial. So now let's go ahead and get into the mode of building your templates. So I'm going to go ahead and change the design of my PowerPoint slide. So if I go to the design tab, within slide size, I can go to custom slide size and choose the drop down for letter paper and go portrait. Now I can ensure that fit. So now I've got my 8.5 by 11 document essentially created here. The biggest key of creating your templates is trying to have a vision of understanding how many boxes or items that you want on that page, and then just start with one. So if I go ahead and go to my line tool, so go to shapes, line, we're just going to draw a line from the left side of the screen to the right. Going to make it a black outline, and then I can change my weight and adjust it to the thickness that I would like. Now that I've got that line, I want to align this at the very top. Well, if we go back to our football button and I choose align, what we were doing earlier was aligning to selected objects if you have more than one object. Well, if you just have one object, PowerPoint's going to allow you to essentially align it to the slide. So now I can choose align and go top, and that's going to create the top border to my drawing. Now I can go duplicate, align, and then go left, so that way I know it's centered, align, bottom, and now I've created that same line down towards the bottom. So if we go Control P, there you can see, and you're going to have a little bit of room on the edge right there for your border. So now I can go Control C, Control V, and then we're just going to rotate this line to essentially create that left side. I'm going to go Control D to duplicate, align, top, and then align right. Now I've got essentially my rectangle. You've got a little bit of a room there on the border of the page, but you can make adjustments when you go to print to change that. All right, so now we just want to create essentially a two-up. So I'm going to take that same line and duplicate it and then give myself just a little bit of room to have a text box up here at the top. So now I'm going to go back to football. I'm going to insert my text box, and we're going to go to Pro Quick Draw PQD High School. All right. So now I can customize that. I can change the font. I can change that width using my shortcuts. And now once I have that piece, I'm just going to go back to football and go to align top, align center. Now I know that my text box is in the very top of the page, and it's also centered within that document. Now in terms of creating the next piece of my template, I'm just going to duplicate the same black line. And now if I select the base of the title area up top, select the middle, and select the bottom, now I can go distribute vertically. Now what you have is a perfect 2 boxes down below the title where the page is exactly cut in half. Now this is kind of a template that you can either leave as blank, print out, put them in the office, use them to draw. But what we're going to do is we're going to build upon this and essentially create a template library of slides. So there's just a basic 2-up. Well, I'm going to select the slide and go Control D to duplicate it. And now I'm actually going to take my text box and duplicate that as well. And that's going to give me a little bit of an area that I could utilize. Or what I'm actually going to do is draw a line directly from the top to the bottom of the top area. Now, if I take that line and essentially align it right here as well, well, now I can grab this line and that top of the text box and then go to align bottom. Now what I've essentially done is I've created 2 drawing areas that have the same exact text box area. So there's your 2-up with 2 title boxes. So you can either delete your title at the top, so that way if you want to print these out, you handwrite up in the box, you do exactly the same. But you know that you've got 2 identical drawings down here at the bottom. And then I just duplicate that as again. Now we can go ahead and we can add an area to essentially count these boxes. So now I've just taken my title and just created a nice little line, and then I can go ahead and align left to make sure I'm good there. Then you can zoom in and see that you've actually aligned that line correctly. So now you've got count boxes. So as you're going and you're making your sheets, you can put a 1, you can put a 2. So that way, if you've got some old school coaches who are hand drawing everything, you can provide at least a couple resources for them to at least have a starting point where they're not having to bust out a ruler and make adjustments. So there's essentially my 2-up. Now we can start building a whole lot more. So I'm going to delete that box. All right. And now we're going to duplicate and duplicate. Now I essentially want to create a 3-up vertical box right here. So I'm just going to go back, grab my title, copy it, and paste it. So now I've been able to paste this in directly. Now you've got your 3 vertical boxes. So I'm going to select line here, 2, 3, and 4. And now I can go distribute vertically. And now you've got your 3 areas of exact same sizing for creating that 3-up. So I know the CFL coaches that are in attendance, I know that this is a big one for you guys because, you know, the field is so wide. Having this, I think, can really help, and just having that understanding of being able to split these pieces to essentially make them that nice little even box. So now you've got your 3-up vertical. Well, now I just need to go ahead and create my 6-up box. So I'm going to duplicate my line and then adjust the height to fit below. So there's my vertical piece. Now we left click the left side, the middle, and then the right. And now if I go to distribute horizontally, well, now it's going to create my 6 boxes, and now you know that they're all even. So having that duplicate function, well, you can see just off the hoof, we've already built 4 templates, and we really haven't had to do much. We're just adding on to each one. Well, now if you want to start putting in title boxes and count boxes, it's the same concept that we did from before. So now I can duplicate, give myself a little bit of room and zoom in, and now just draw you a line from top to bottom, so that way you know exactly that same size. Now I can grab the blue line here and then the black line underneath, Control D to duplicate, and now I can just align that and drop it right in. Do the same thing, Control D to duplicate, and PowerPoint recognizes what you're doing, and it already put it right back in the exact place of where it needed to go. Now I can delete out that blue line. Now you've got yourself a 6-up with title boxes going across the top. Control D to duplicate this again. Now where I had that black line going down the left side, well, now I just want to insert my area for the count. Now, last time we talked about the Format Painter button. So if this is the size of the line that I want to utilize and make the change, well, I can select that line, go up here to Format Painter, and then if I click that line right there, it's going to automatically change those properties. To me, you can also, if you're a shortcut individual, you can select that line and go Control-Shift-C. That will copy the formatting, and then when I select that line, I can go Control-Shift-V, and that will paste the properties back over to that line. So just a nice little short nugget right there. And now in terms of your count feature, you just duplicate that a few times. So I put it right here in the middle, because now when we run the Arrange button and the Align button, I can select 1, 2, and then 3. Go back to my tab, align, and now when I choose left, it's going to adjust those over to the left side of the screen. And now I've essentially created my counts for that piece. Now, in order to create the exact distance from this side to here, it's the same as what we did before. So I grab my shapes, I grab that line tool, and now I just draw a line from point A to point B. And now I just copy over and Control, click, and drag to essentially copy those right over and bring them over to that next tab. Once you've got one aligned in that correct position, I can delete out my lines here. 1, 2, and 3, and then go to Align Right. Now they're even. Now you've got yourself a nice little 6-up DTC that we just created. So we've been here for 14 minutes and we've knocked out 5 templates just like that. So just keep building on what you're doing and using the tools to your advantage. So there's my 6-up. And one of the transitions that we're going to talk about is using the field background to essentially create more templates. So here's just a basic 2-up, and then you start going, well, all right, well, now I want to add in a field background to this image to help kind of associate different things like that. So that way you can lock that layer and essentially later on down the road. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Insert and then Pictures. And with the PQD download, we're going to go ahead and give you some sample drawings so that way you guys can download the trial, pull them in. Well, because I'm working with more of a square box look to it, I can add the 35-yard high school field, and now I can adjust that field to fit exactly within that box. Now the trick is to go back to your football tab and send it to the back. Now you've got a nice little field drawing that you've just created. And then what I'm going to do is actually copy and duplicate that. So now I don't actually touch the blank drawing. So now I can paste that in. We're going to send it to the back. And then because I know that I've created my template to be the exact same size for both boxes, well, now I can just duplicate it, drag it down to the bottom, and go ahead and send that to the back as well. So now you've got a template that you've just created pretty quickly. Now you've got your fields on it. Now I can go Control P, print that out, and then you can adjust if you want to frame it or not, so that way it doesn't go to the very edge of the paper. But that right there allows you to insert that drawing, copy and paste, and bring it in. The other piece that you'll start to see people do is that they may just create a template with maybe your offensive line down in the center. So to get your offensive line perfectly lined up, we're just going to go ahead to our Shapes tool. So now I can grab my oval to create my left tackle. Once I've drawn it, we're going to go ahead and set the properties. So I want to go to my Shape Fill and make it white. Go to my Shape Outline, make it black. And then my Shape Outline, I can go ahead and adjust the weight as well. So here's my left tackle essentially. I'm going to go Control D to create my left guard. All right. Now I'm going to right click and go Set as Default Shape. Now I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm just going to draw a square directly around my circle, and that's going to give me approximately the same exact size of the left guard and the left tackle. Now I can duplicate 2 more times. We're going to go ahead and adjust everybody. So now I'm going to highlight all 5 offensive linemen, go to my football tab, align, and choose top. Now everybody's lined up with the top of that offensive lineman, except now I can take my center and bring them just a hair up above. Now I can highlight everybody else and now go distribute horizontally, and that's going to adjust the sizing and the difference between all 5 objects. Once I have all 5 objects ready to roll, I'm just going to go ahead and group it by going to Control G, or you can go up to the Group button, or if you don't have your football tab, you can go Home, Arrange, and then Group. Once you've got that Group button, now it just goes, all right, I want to center this within the box. So I've selected the top line, the middle, and then down here at the bottom for that line as well. Now I can go back to my football tab and distribute vertically. Now if I want the offensive line group to be in the center of my slide, well, since I've only selected the one object, I can go to Align and then Center, and that's going to put that center right in the middle of my slide. Now I can Control D and do the same exact thing. So I'm going to align it. Control, Align. We'll go to the right. I can select Object 1, Object 2, Object 3, and then go to my Distribute Vertical. Whoop. Now I've created just a nice little offensive line, so that way you can print this out, add in the tight end, add the receivers, add in your defense, draw it by hand, which to me, one of the fastest things that you can do to transfer any type of ideas that you have, draw by hand on the exact looking template that you're going to paste into PowerPoint and then draw off of. So that way it's very consistent. You don't have to draw the 5 offensive linemen every time. The shapes are always the same exact size. Do the little things that are going to really help keep you organized in that aspect. So there's my sheet. Well, now I can copy it and then I can paste in both of these. So copy that, paste it. Now it's in this template as well. All right. Now I can go 1, 2, and 3. Do the same thing. So now, except I'm going to highlight my top line, the middle, and then the bottom, and go distribute vertically. 1. All right. Here we go. 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now I can go back to the Align button, and instead of going to Align Selected Objects, we're going to choose Align to Slide. Now when I select Align to Slide, I can go to Align and Center, and now that's going to adjust all 3 objects and place them directly in the center. So really utilizing your align and distribute horizontal button, that's what's going to make you speed up and fly through in these templates, and everything is exactly even in the way you want it. Okay, so now we'll just do the same exact thing. So I'm going to copy one set and paste it in. Now, if it gets to be too big for your box, because you've grouped all of those objects, it's essentially seeing it as one object. Now I can drag it by the corner and essentially adjust it to the sizing, and then just go back and adjust your weight so that way it's not too big on the sheet. So however you want it to look. Well, now in order to align it in the center of the boxes, because essentially you're not centering in the slide anymore, same thing as before. I select the left line, select my group, select the center line, distribute horizontally. Whoop. And the reason it did that is because on the align button, I still have it aligned to slide. Make sure you have aligned selected objects. Now I can go distribute horizontally and do the same. So now I'm just going to hold down Control D, and that's going to give me everybody that I need. I'm sorry, I'm going to hold down Control, click, and drag. Now I can select object 1, 2, and 3, align right. Okay, and then I want to make sure that these two guys are aligned to the top as well. So now I know that they're even. So I can go grab the middle. 1, 2, and 3, distribute horizontally. So now he's centered up. And then I'm just going to move this object to the left because I want to align it off the right side so I know it's even. Align right, and then you can adjust the vertical aspect as well of all those. So now you've got all 6 created. We're going to copy. Now I go to my DTC, my drawing, title, and count area, and paste that in as well. So now you've got, if you continued to duplicate this, we went from 6, now we're up to 12 templates with or without drawing. So that to me is a really, really big key piece of it. And you know, the other part that you can do, because now my offensive line is, they're not actually locked within the drawing. They're still an editable object I can move around. So one of the things that you can do to essentially lock in that object is, well, I've got my template created. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to go to File, Save As, and then Browse. So now I can save this as my 6-up DTC. And instead of saving as a PowerPoint, I want to save it as a JPEG. Now, by saving it as a JPEG and just this one, it's going to create a new file. Well, now essentially when I create a new PowerPoint presentation, I can then go back to my design because I know I want to use a handout. So I'm going to go back to my custom slide size, choose the letter paper portrait, and click OK, and then ensure. Delete my background, and now if I right-click the screen and go Format Background, I can choose a picture and then Insert from File. Well, the file that I want to insert is exactly the one that I just saved. So I'm going to go back to my Documents folder. It's called the 6-up DTC. So now I'm going to insert that drawing, and now what I've done is I've essentially created a locked layer for this drawing. So now when I go to print it, it looks really smooth, it looks really clean. But now when you start adding in objects and players and things like that, now you don't actually click the offensive line. So I can go ahead and grab, I can adjust and drop in my tight end. We can make the fill color white, the outline is blue. Okay, we can adjust our thickness. But this is what's going to allow you to essentially start creating more pieces to where that background is locked, and you can either print it, do whatever you want with it, but bringing it back into PowerPoint, that's where it really helps you. That way you're not clicking it. And the reason why that is so big, because now that's actually what's going to allow us to create different templates using our fields. So if I go back to our 3-up, well, I'm going to duplicate our 3-up and I'm going to remove the offensive line. Well, from here, I'm going to go ahead and insert my picture. And if, like we said before, if you get the download, I'm going to insert my CFL field. So I'm going to go to my Documents. And I know y'all can't see it. It's on the other screen here. All right. So PowerPoint background, CFL field, and go ahead and insert that document. Well, now I'm just going to slide up the field and I can shrink it just a hair. So that way it fits my document. Now I can go back to my football tab and send to back. Now I've inserted my field, and we're going to go ahead and duplicate that 2 more times. Okay, and then I'm just going to send these guys to the back as well. So there's your 3-up that we've created. Now instead of just saving this as that template, I go to File, Save As, Browse, and now here's my CFL 3-up, and hit Save. Create a new PowerPoint presentation. From here, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the design, slide size, custom, make it portrait, letter paper, and hit OK. Insert. Now I can delete, right click, format background. Now we're going to add it from the file. So picture, insert, from file. Now it's going to pull up that documents. Now I can choose my 3-up. All right, so just this one, I can export it. Here we go. Now we're cooking. All right, so I've got new. Okay, we're going to go to design, change that slide size, portrait, ensure, delete everybody, format background, picture, insert, from file, CFL 3-up, boom, there it is. Now I've dropped that in, and now that's a locked layer in the background that I can't actually click. So very, very useful, especially when you start doing things like this. You can print these out on game day, and being able to chart during the game, charting punts, charting kickoffs, field goals, pass concepts, pass protections. Go ahead and set these diagrams so during the game you can be able to draw on them, and then post-game you can transfer these files or transfer your drawings directly to your template that you've created. I think that's one aspect that people can really utilize to kind of benefit from it. But that's kind of manipulating your field background for that portion. Now, where I want to get into is kind of tailoring it now towards different templates, not just with the lines, but being able to put in a chart essentially. So we're going to go ahead and clear out this background. So just go with a solid fill. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and insert like we did from before. We're going to have our title area up top. So I'm going to go to insert or football text box. Okay. PQD Playbook example. All right. So now I'm just going to go to arrange align top, arrange align center. So now it drops it in. I'm going to drop in my lines that go around the edge as well. Okay, so 1, all right. Black, I'm gonna go ahead and make that weight a little bit bigger. Okay, duplicate, place that at the bottom. Duplicate as well. Okay, so now we've got our borders. Click and drag, there's our template. So now I've got objects 1, 2, and 3. So we'll go ahead and go to distribute vertically. Now your top is essentially going to serve as your drawing area. And now down here at the bottom, I want to insert a table. So if I go to insert table, PowerPoint allows you to choose a 2x1, a 4x1, whatever it is that you want. So now here's where you can really get into your custom playbook examples. So if I just create a really basic offensive stencil or an offensive playbook template, I'm going to choose a 2x6 or a 2x5. All right. From here, I can go ahead and drop that on the page and then readjust it. All right. So now this essentially starts to serve as a Excel sheet. So now I can type in the position and then I can put the rules on the right side. If you want to change the color scheme, whatever you want, you can customize it to your school. So we can just go black and white. I can then come back and turn around and then change the font size as well. And then I personally just like the align text to be in the middle on both the position and the rules as well. So now when I type, I can go quarterback, go tight end, receiver, receiver. If you don't have enough boxes, well, two different ways I can add a box. I can either right click and then have my insert button pop, and then I can go insert row below. Now, if I've got my quarterback, my tight ends, now I can potentially put in the tailback. The other way that you can go ahead and add that grouping is if you select, and now the table tools are going to pop up here at the top of the screen. Now I can choose my layout and go insert below, and then that's going to automatically drop in that next grouping. So this to me is one of the better pieces of PowerPoint that I didn't really expand upon until here recently, because now you can really treat it like an Excel sheet and kind of manipulate it and organize it to where now you can get your play drawn up top, you can write in your rules, and then you just start to transpose that, type it, and you save that file. I think that's one really big key piece to it. And then not only that, go ahead and add your field background to this. So now I can go back to insert pictures. Okay, I can go back to my PowerPoint background. Let's say we wanted a red zone deal. Well, now I can just drop in my red zone image, make the adjustment, and then send it to the back. All right, so football, send to back. So now you've got a red zone diagram that you can draw by hand, you can draw in PowerPoint, whatever it is that you want to do, but you're creating the different templates that can really expedite the process each week in terms of putting together your game plan. I think that those are really good pieces right there. Special teams people don't get a lot of love in these type of deals. So I want to build a quick special teams template that I think can really be powerful in your meetings for your kicker, and also getting together a game plan of where our kicker is hot on the field. So essentially I can create my new document, and now I'm going to keep it in the 16:9 world because it just looks a little cleaner on the page, because I can do two things. Number one, I'm going to insert my picture of my field. All right, so now I can drop in my field and it's a little bit bigger, or if you've even got a full field, which I think I've got a little example here. So there it is. All right, here we go. So now I've got a little bit larger field, so I can go ahead and add the full field aspect to it, or however you're sizing and you want that to look. Well, now I've got my marks here on the left, and now on the right side of the screen, I can go ahead and add that table. So now I can go kick number, and then on table 2, you can have net, hang time, different examples that now you can place this chart to the right. So we go kick number, I hit the tab button, all right? We go net, where did it land? What was the hang time? And then now with this kick and this chart, you can go ahead and start placing the different key points. So there was kick number 1. Well, after kick 1 with the layout, I can go ahead and add that below. So kick 1, what did we net? It was 42 yards. Where did it land? It landed on the 6. Okay, what was the hang time? 4.53. Kid kicks off again. Boom, insert below. Kick 2, all right, what did we net? It was a touchback. Okay, where did it land? Obviously the end zone. What was the hang time? 4.67. So taking this and utilizing this template, you can now do a little bit better job of charting special teams, and then also giving yourself a nice little diagram to show either the team, the individual player, but utilize that template and take those different objects and being able to drop them in like that. I think that get creative with what you provide and then what you're able to print too, because now you've got a nice little opponent punt hang time chart, kickoff return, different things like that, and being able to add that full field but have it on the diagram, because it's, you get the whole length of the field in the 16:9, but now you've got an area where you can adjust that chart on the right side. I think you got a lot of benefit to using it that way. And then I got about 4 to 5 minutes left. The next one I think is really, really big moving forward is the scout card template look. So if we go ahead and create a new document, and one of the things that I prefer for the scout cards, it's a 4x3 look, just because you can get a little bit more of a box, and it fits better to tablets, to iPads if you go that route. I just think it's a simpler look. So now if I go into my design we're going to go to our slide size and change it to the 4x3. So it doesn't matter about the ensure fit, but now I'm going to right click and format my background, and we're going to add a picture. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, before I got ahead of myself. So I want to insert my picture first. So we're going to go to pictures. All right, and I'm going to drop in a high school field. Okay, so here's our high school field. Now I can make my adjustment. Essentially drop it down here as well. So if it's a little pixelated, you can make adjustments. You can bring in different types of images. That one doesn't look too clean. Let me pick another one. All right, let's go. Documents. Real quick, draw 3.5 backgrounds. Okay. All right. So now this one's a little bit more mapped and it's a little bit better. There's a solid looking gray line right here, and that's going to count as our line of scrimmage. Now I've got 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, and I can leave this space up here essentially for our table. So we talked earlier about going ahead and making this essentially your background. So F12, all right, here's our scout card for PPT, and then I want to save it as a JPEG. So just this one. So now I can delete that, format our background, insert our picture source. Okay, so now I'm going to go right back into my documents, scout card for PowerPoint. So now I've dropped in that image, and now up at the top, we're going to go ahead and create a table for us to easily type in for each week. So now with my table, I can insert, let me get rid of this. All right, we're going to have our offense, defense, the play number, down, distance, yard line, hash, and then also the play name. Now I can adjust that to the top of the screen, and now you can go ahead and type in all those different categories. All right, so we'll change the font. I've got my offense, defense, and I'm just hitting tab to go to the next cell. Down, distance, yard line, hash, and then our play. From here, I can adjust the boxes. So typically, if you can keep it within 3, BHS, whoever it is that you're playing, shrink up the boxes that aren't going to take up a lot of room. So that way your play has a lot more value on the right side. And then the other piece is you can always shrink that text as well to give you a little bit more room. So now align text in the middle for both of those. Now we've got our area, and then just below we can go ahead and go to our layout, and then I can insert below. Now we've got our offense, it's PQD. The defense was BHS. This is play number 4 from that game. Down, distance is 10. The yard line was at the -20. Hash is on the left hash. What's the play? It's Dallas, right, 64 drive. Well, now it starts to become, all right, well, let's go ahead and draw that play. So here's my circle. Okay, we've got that object. I can go to my shape fill, shape outline. So now we're going to go ahead and create our weight. Duplicate that. There's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Highlight, arrange align top, arrange horizontal. There's our offensive line. Now I can Control D to duplicate, and then we're going to make this line for red. So here's our receivers. I got 1, I got 2, and then I've got 3. I'm going to duplicate for my quarterback. Here's my tackle, and there's my tight end. Tight end, shape fill. We can go blue, or I can make the line blue. Doesn't make a difference. Just being able to have that differentiation there is good. Okay, the other piece that I really like to have is the alignment for your players. So underneath each player, insert a text box. So football text box. And now I've got bottom of the numbers for this player. Control D to duplicate that. Well, what's this player? They are hash -2. All right. What about down here? We're at the top of the numbers. So T number, top of the numbers. Now, because your drawing is essentially to scale for this object, now I could go ahead and grab my free form. All right. And then 12 yards, skinny post. Shape outline is red. go ahead and adjust my weight, adjust the arrows, right click, and then set as default shape. Grab my freeform object. All right, now we got at 14 yards, we're gonna run a post. Grab my freeform object. 10 yards, we run a dig. Okay, I'm gonna grab my freeform object, and now I've got my shallow cross out of the tight end. Change the coloring, right click, set as default shape, or you can right click and go edit points. Now I can grab my black line and essentially adjust that bubble down at the bottom. Now you've created your drag route going across. I'm going to highlight the entire offense, and go to bring to front. The reason I go bring to front is because now all of the lines live underneath my offensive players. Now, if you want to continue to increase how that card looks, go ahead and add the route depth for those players. So that way they've got a visual, but then they've also got a number that sticks right there to it. So that way there's no argument for that kid to come back to the huddle and tell you that they didn't know how deep they were supposed to be on that post route. So I think that utilizing just this little piece and creating that scout card, it keeps you organized up top. It creates that drawing and makes sure that everything is pretty uniform and synced up. But even if you don't draw it by using PowerPoint, you can always utilize and go ahead and go with and just print off the field. So that way, if you've got a defensive coordinator who likes drawing by hand, print out the field, put all the boxes up at the top of the page to keep that organized. So now when I go file print, here's your card. This is exactly what it looks like on an 8.5 by 11. To me, that's really crisp looking. It's simple. It's easy to read. There's not a lot of questioning in that. But that's essentially all the manipulation in terms of your fields and just your different objects and dropping that in to create your 6-ups, your 4-ups, your 2-ups, your playbooking tools. Really utilize that table function. I think that's a huge key piece to it that I think is really beneficial. But now the area that I want to transition to right now is your folder manipulation and your folder organization of creating your offense or your defense or special teams or whoever it is. And so by creating that folder structure, so let me try and figure out why I cannot get my File Explorer updated. Interesting. Well, I'll have to find another way to show that. Okay. So one of the things that we've done is with the PQD download, we've essentially provided you with a nice solid foundation of what a PowerPoint library or what your drill library or what all of your images and how your drawings fit and what that needs to look like. So you can actually see the folder structure from this concept from right here. So if I've created, and we're going to start on the defensive side of ball, I learned this from my time at DV Sport, but have your folder structure organized by a numbering system and always start with 00 or 01. And the reason for this is if people were to go by alphabetical order, well, you may have, personnel, or you may have alignment, assignment, formations, stunts, everything's kind of discombobulated. To me, the best way that you can organize it, especially from a defensive side of ball, is going in the order of which we break down a game film. That should essentially be the order of my folder structure. So how we did it, it was always based off of the personnel groups. That's where we started. And then within personnel, it was the formation. All right, what was the next tag within formations? Well, is there a shift or is there a motion? So that's how my folder, the structure actually gets through here. And I wish I could pull up my File Explorer, but I think that this key piece is what can really help you organize all of your drawings and all of your concepts that you have in terms of just, especially defensively. When you get to breaking down an opponent week by week, a lot of this stuff carries over. So why not have a default folder of what personnel groups do they have? Well, then I can draw and I can add in those personnel groups. All right. What's the formations? But don't don't just have the formation group and whatever, if it's Denver right dot or Denver right gun far, put in the personnel with it. So that way, if you don't want a folder for all the 21 formations, have a key tag in that formation drawing as well. So that way I can find 21 pro right eye, or I can organize it by that folder formation. In terms of the run game, split it up by concept. You know, you may have a folder for zone that's got inside zone, outside zone. You may have a folder that says gap scheme. So that way you're looking at all your counters and all your draw or counters and powers. You know, find different ways to keep things organized as the years go on. So that way the next school that you end up, or the next team, you're not having to start from scratch again. Everything can kind of carry over with you. That's essentially the opponent breakdown style of it. From a defensive self-scout, you've got your alignments in terms of, all right, what's our base alignment? What's our nickel alignment? What's our odd alignment? And then you can break it down into fronts. So that way it doesn't have to have all 11 players. Split it up and keep it simple for just the fronts. So that way, if you want to showcase an odd front, you have that capability. And then the next folder should be your stunts. The next folder may be your pressures, or go from base coverage to sub pressures. And just using the numbering system, I think, can really help you stay organized in terms of just being able to have a solid structure going on each week. So that way you know where everything is at all times. But I really hope that piece was really beneficial for you. I apologize for the File Explorer kind of crashing right there. The big shortcut for folder creation is Control-Shift-N. That's what's going to allow you to, boom, create a new folder. All right, so I'm going to go 00, opponent breakdown. Within that folder, Control-Shift-N, 01, Control-Shift-N, 02, Control-Shift-N, 03. But not only that, organize your weekly opponents by that as well. So that way, if you're looking for Jackson County, it's not anywhere random. It's the next game. It's that next week. The numbering system, I think, is really, really beneficial. So